Right now, thousands of regular hardworking people are being laid off. And every time the executives try to explain why they're doing all these layoffs, they always say the exact same thing. We're just restructuring to go full AI. That has been the buzzword the last couple of years, actually. Now, that feels really scary. And it feels like robots are finally winning. But what if I told you that it is not actually the story about technology today? And what if I also told you that it is just history that's just repeating itself like for the third time in about 30 years? See, there's a hidden pattern in corporate America that most people don't know about, and it just goes unnoticed. Every decade or so, giant consulting firms convince corporate bosses that a new trend is going to change the world overnight. Now, the bosses will always panic like they usually do. They'll fire a bunch of people, they'll spend billions, and then the bubble pops. And they have to quietly go back and hire everyone all over again. Today, I want to do something that, I want to talk about something that most people don't really talk about. I want to pull back the curtain, right, on this gate, on this like tremendously great corporate hype that happens every decade or so, and why the current AI layoff wave might not be the biggest mistake bosses are making yet, because we've seen this before, quite honestly. So to fully understand this or to put this into perspective, why I'm thinking the way I'm thinking right now, we have to go back to 1996. Now, this is when the commercial internet was born. Suddenly, giant consulting firms and telecom executives started panicking. They'll go around telling everyone, like every company on earth, that if you don't build massive fiber optic networks right now, you will go bankrupt. The internet traffic, according to what they said then, was going to double every 100 days, right? Now, that was a total lie for anybody who followed that event or that era. It was a complete lie. The data was completely made up, but corporate bosses fell for it. Now, companies went ballistic and spent north of $35 billion into burying millions of miles of high-tech cables under the ground. But when the dust settled right about 2001, only about 5% of those cables were actually turned on. The other 95% just went sitting in the dark. Now, a bunch of companies went bankrupt. The bubble popped, of course, and thousands of workers lost their jobs because bosses just chased a myth that was cooked up in some consultation meeting. Now, we fast forward about a decade later, and the tech world came up with this new concept of working called Agile, which basically just meant working in quick, adaptable steps. Then the consulting companies came back in again. They packaged this simple idea into a multi-billion dollar product. They told every company that would listen, like banks, insurance firms, healthcare companies, retail companies, you name it, that if you don't change how your entire company thinks right now, you're dead. And you need to hire thousands of scrum masters and agile coaches. And what did we see from that? Then suddenly, every regular company was forcing their employees into 15-minute daily hurdles and moving color sticky notes across whiteboards. Millions of dollars were spent hiring people whose entire job description was to manage the sticky notes. Then the hype faded. Companies realized that having 50 scrum masters did not actually make their products better. By 2023 and 2024, those exact same companies quietly fired almost all the coaches and scrum masters that they had on their books. Some even laid up the entire agile department. So that bubble popped again, which brings us to right now, the AI era. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying that AI is real. It is here to stay. It's going to be here. But the point I'm making is a different angle to it. Over the last couple of years, consulting firms have unleashed the exact same playbook that they played around or they used the last two instances that I just described. They are publishing massive reports claiming AI will automate 300 million jobs and add trillions to the economy and all the good stuff. They're telling CEOs whatever they want to hear, like fire your writers, fire your customer service teams, fire your operations staff. AI can do it all for pennies. Now, and because corporate bosses suffer from massive FOMO like they always do, they're doing just that. Normal everyday companies are laying off experienced human beings to replace them with AI tools. But I think there's a catch here that nobody's really paying attention to, and the big lesson from history as well. AI is not yet ready to run your company, at least from my point of view and from my experience dealing with these companies. Just like the fiber optics in 1996, the infrastructure is being massively overbuilt right now. And just like Agile in the 2010s as well, the actual everyday utility is being widely oversold by people trying to sell consulting contracts. Now, when you fire human beings who actually understand how your business works and replace them with AI chatbots that hallucinates, make up facts, and can handle complex real-world human problems, your business will start to break. I mean, we already started to see the cracks right now. You have CEOs walking back their whole grand vision of AI in terms of replacing workforce, and customers are getting frustrated with terrible automated service. And so the quality is really dropping. So what happens next? What happens from here moving forward? History tells us that the bubble will pop eventually. Now, that does not mean that AI is not real. It is real. So as Agile was real and is still being real today. It's still being used today. And the same way that fiber optics was real, because even though 5% of fiber optics were being used back then, when e-commerce came in and took over, and when streaming came around like YouTube and Netflix, those millions of miles of cables that were buried underground is what's currently helping us streaming right now, because companies had to go back and say, oh, we don't have to bury cables anymore because we did that decades earlier. So a bunch of companies bought those cable lines for like pennies on the dollar. And now those cables they became useful, which is helping us with YouTube and Netflix and other streaming platforms as well. So history tells us that, of course, though the bubble will pop, right? The bubble will pop, but it doesn't mean it's all going to be lost. Companies are going to eventually realize that AI is a great tool, but a terrible employee. And over the next few years, at least from my estimation, after losing millions of dollars in customer trust, these exact same bosses are going to have to walk backwards into the market and rehire the humans that they let go in the first place. I mean, we saw that recently. Ford just hired or rehired 350 engineers because the whole AI robotic initiative did not quite work. Now, does that mean they will never go back to AI or they would abandon it completely? No, it's still going to be there, but there's a realization that humans are actually going to be needed more than is being hyped or touted right now. And the thing that we need to also understand and remember is that the tools will change, because we're still at the early stage of AI if you think about it. AI is, as of right now, because AI, mainstream AI at the very least, it was released to us by OpenAI ChatGPT in November of 2022. And as of the recording of this video, we're in July of 2026. So we're not even 4 years old. So a lot is going to happen. The hype is real. The bubble is going to pop. We're going to realize the millions of tools that exist out here. We're going to really drill down to about a couple hundreds of them that are actually going to be useful. But the point here is eventually the tools will change. The corporate panic will always stay the same. Something else is going to show up in 10 years from now. We all know this, right? Something else is going to show up and consulting companies are going to package it and sell it. But I also want to add something. I think this is a very critical time for consulting firms, because this is the one period in life or in human history that consulting companies are actually panicking for real, because they are starting to realize their use is going to drop systematically because once upon a time, consulting companies will be the ones with the information. If you need a consulting company to help you do some research and figure out how to execute on certain contracts or projects, or help you determine the next path for your company, they will hire a bunch of junior analysts and charge you $300 an hour and pay them $30 or $40 an hour to go do the work, right? But now AI is done it in such a way that companies can do this themselves. Hell, even the consulting companies are actually using AI now to even do the job for you, but they're charging you super crazy amount of money for them to do that job. So the question begs, if they are using AI themselves, what's stopping companies to just hire somebody in-house and pay them, I don't know, 100,000 a year to go do the work that AI, that they're going to charge them $300 an hour to do, that $300 an hour, 160 hours a week, a month. And, just do the math for 6 months, a project, which they're going to go use AI to basically generate a bunch of reports that they can pay somebody in-house to do it themselves. So a lot is going to change in that direction. But at the end of the day, corporate executives they're looking for someone to attach the blame to when something doesn't work. I think that's why they're so obsessed with consulting firms, because they can't use brains of their own. So if they try an initiative, it fails, they can say, oh, well, Accenture or McKinsey or some other consulting firm is the one to be blamed because this big name consulting firm got it wrong. So technically it's not me who got it wrong, it's them, and they're supposed to know better. So of course they're always going to be panicking. Something else is going to come up in 10 years and they are going to rely on consulting companies to do the work for them. So the message here is, do not let the headline scare you, right? We've seen this movie before. Like, I just listed a couple of instances, and there are several other instances that we can go on and list. We just don't have enough time of the day to go through those instances. So this movie has been seen before, and the humans always have to come back to clean up the mess. At the end of the day, we still need our humans to clean up the mess, because the AI is not going to think for you. It's not going to have that human relationship. Now, of course, there are certain tasks that AI is great for. If you need to automate certain things, repeatable tasks, whatever it is. And we also need to, every now and then tap into the brain of AI to help polish our thoughts. So let me ask you this. What do you think of my perspective? Have you seen any company, or do you know of any company that just went on this journey? And I'm talking personally, not what we read on the news. Maybe the company that you work for that went on this journey to lay off a bunch of people, thinking that AI is going to come in and do everything better. And now they're slowly walking things back and trying to get humans back in through the back door. Because I think it's going to happen, and they're going to shamefully do it. Because right now, it's the big thing. They lay off a bunch of people and the stock price goes up 20% and everybody's excited. Then they get to a point. Now, I haven't even talked about token maxing, because a lot of these companies go in the token direction and they realize that the tokens are actually costing more than humans. Now, one thing that a lot of these other companies are not realizing is that big tech companies like Meta, Nvidia, Amazon, Microsoft, they have the ability to token max. They have the money and they can go raise more money. They have people who sponsor those deficits that they have on their budget. But an insurance company, a finance company, tech is not the core of their business. So token maxing is not sustainable for them. So I think they're going to get to a point and realize that, okay, this token, it's good. We like them, but I think we need to bring humans in. Then, of course, leverage some of those tokens, which, of course, leverage AI to be able to help them execute on these jobs that we initially got rid of them for. So I think they're going to shamefully come back and start rehiring people at a slower pace, but eventually the humans are going to win. Now, granted, a bunch of jobs are going to go away, right? Like if your job was so repeatable where you have to read a bunch of emails, summarize the notes, if you have to do like predictive analysis, if that was your job, good luck. That is not coming back. You're not going to win on that. But anything that requires like a human touch from a standpoint of maybe analyzing certain things, being able to interact and be able to execute, especially when you have to work with humans. AI is emotionless, right? It's going to do what it needs to do. So the best way would be to have those humans then leverage those tools to be able to execute at that level. But I don't know, do you work for any company that you see they're slowly doing rehiring? Maybe not quite at the level that is very visible or very obvious, but do you see anything? Do you see anything, or do you foresee anything that is the path that things are going to go? Just let me know in the comment section, and also let me know if the thought or my perspective is just crazy, or if I've lost my marbles here. Now, if this makes sense to you, if what I just said actually is something that resonates with you, I would love to, read from you and to help support and push this forward. I would love if you can subscribe and, comment and share the video with somebody that you think would love to this. And until then, I'll see you on the next one.